There's an NBA scandal apparently.
Bailey scandal was the biggest story of the draft outside of the Mavs landing Cooper Flag. This kid, who was supposed to be a nice, humble guy, pulling the most arrogant diva stuff before draft night. But it turns out, behind the scenes, it wasn't Ace Bailey. It was his manager, Omar Cooper, pulling the strings, costing Ace millions of dollars potentially and his reputation, but it turns out Ace Bailey just fired Omar Cooper, and it could be linked to a wild conspiracy that makes the entire scandal 10 times more dark and twisted.
No, Ace
so
Bailey
Ace met Omar when he moved
it.
from Tennessee to Georgia to play high school basketball at McEachern. Now, McEachern is not some normal high school. It is a national powerhouse, ranked #1 in the country in 2019 when Sharif Cooper went there, Omar's son. So Omar basically becomes a gatekeeper in that Georgia to
Oh, that's Sharif Cooper's dad. Okay, I seen that name. Oh, okay, this is that note.
NBA pipeline.
Is that note?
But unfortunately for Sharif, something terrible happened after high school. But my favorite way to stay fit is to do a little working out, but I always
wasn't that the dude that was dating, or am I mistaken? He was dating Ash Cash.
In the diet. It feels that the chance to walk into these meal prep places. Code again is 8 in the first 12 games. He goes to all these, go check them out. The discount code again is AMH25. He goes to Auburn as a 5-star recruit, but can't play the first 12 games because the NCAA is investigating him for improper benefits and contact with an agent. But he is cleared and plays the final 12 games at Auburn, scoring 20 points on 23% from deep. Not great. So every expert tells him to return to school, boost that draft stock, but no. Sharif enters the draft, drops all the way down to the second round, plays a handful of games for Atlanta before getting shipped overseas to China. So from 5 stars to the Far East with his dad Omar calling the shots. But despite that, Ace still trusts this guy to be his manager. But what is a manager?
Yeah, I don't know.
A lot of people call Omar his agent, but that's not true. A manager is somebody who a player trusts to have his best interest, guides the player's life decisions, school, endorsements, media, who to trust. Think Uncle Dennis for questions. School endorsement.
No, that's not Tyler Hero. I don't know.
It's media, who to trust. Think Uncle Dennis for Kawhi, but they're not all bad. NBA teams estimate some 30 to 40% of lottery picks have a manager. But what happens next puts Omar right up there with Uncle Dennis. Maybe even worse, because at least Kawhi's reputation might be broke, but not his bank account. Omar might have cost Ace millions. So mock drafts had Ace as high as number 3 to Philly. But 1 week before the draft, reports said, hey, he hadn't conducted a single workout with an NBA team. Then the team at 3, Philly, gets a call saying he is canceling his workout and his meeting with them last minute. What?
So
People were ripping Ace, calling him an entitled player who could poison your franchise. But Omar said, 18 teams interviewed him. They all saw him work out at the NBA Draft Combine. He is not the first player to decline or cancel workouts, which is true. 1 year before, Alex Sarr refused to meet with the Hawks because he didn't want to go there. So what's the big deal? Well, it is really uncommon for a player to not work out for any team and for his handler to pretty much demand which team he's gonna play for. And what team was that? Well, Mark Stein just confirmed Washington was the lottery team. According to various rivals, that was the preferred landing spot for Ace Bailey. The Wizards?
Why?
Look, no offense, but it's not like the Wizards are some developmental powerhouse like OKC or the Spurs. The Wizards are like an aimless franchise with no success since the 1970s. But Philly, to have a 6'8" forward like Ace.
Yeah, for him to go top 3 to Philly, I wouldn't wish that on anybody else either. What happened to the last 4 lottery picks of Philadelphia? They got fucking hurt in their first season. Joel Embiid missed his 2 seasons. Ben Simmons missed his whole first season. Markelle Fultz, the year after those back-to-back missed 80 or his first season. I wouldn't want to go. I wouldn't want to go to Philadelphia either as a top 3 pick at the age of 23. No, I understand exactly what happens to them. I'm good.
Pair with an all-star young point guard like Tyrese Maxey could be perfect. So why push hard for DC? That's when
But
the whole
DC, hell
thing
no.
started to smell
You might
off,
as well just go to
and where
Utah
this
for sure, for sure.
conspiracy theory really kicks into gear. But imagine being a GM on that draft night. You got a top 5 pick ready to invest millions
the
in
other
this kid,
team? Like 4
and
and
suddenly
5.
his camp calls you saying, "Don't draft us. We won't even show up if you do."
6'8",
You don't
you
pull
could play
that
1
unless you
through
think
3,
you're LeBron
maybe
James.
4.
But guess what? The Jazz drafted him anyway. They took Ace at 5 because
he was
Danny
5.
Ainge said,
Oh, who was
"I'm not
4?
going to be bullied by this handler Omar Cooper. I'm Danny Ainge." And after a
Yeah.
little concern
that's
that
what it
Ace
was.
might not report, he did show up. And turns out he was nothing but professional. In fact, the local paper in Utah said from every possible source, Bailey is a humble, hardworking hoop junkie
That's why they
with a
had
heart
to
of
fire him,
gold
because his
who is
manager
eager to
was
start
selling.
his professional career and continue learning.
just money
So
hungry?
how did this happen? That's when people found out about Omar Cooper. He posted this
Oh, yeah, this
weird
video went
of
viral,
himself
bro.
online,
This made
just
no
looking
sense.
into his camera. Kind of a red flag for a dude in his 40s. And if Ace had dropped to 8, that would have cost Ace upwards of $10 million. Luckily, the Jazz took him, dropped from potentially 3 to 5, which would have been about $2 million. But the real cost was his reputation, because now the first thing people think when they hear Ace Bailey is this terrible, toxic situation. But shockingly, Ace did not fire Omar. It took something else just
Why did
before
he
this
fire
season to finally kill that relationship. On September 19th, the Wizards announced they are signing Sharif Cooper to a 2-way NBA contract. A shock.
Oh, so Sharif Cooper's dad, aka Ace Bailey's manager, wanted Ace Bailey to go to Washington because he had inside sources that his son was gonna get signed to Washington. So he just wanted him to boost his son's stock up. I mean, I'm not mad at that, but like, why couldn't he just like? Why couldn't he just make sure like? I mean, I understand it'd be easy to manage both of your people at like one team, but like if he's gonna go to Philly at 3, bro, like let him go to Philly at 3. You get more money, and yeah, bro, just you're gonna be jet lagged the rest of your life. I don't know.
To people who follow 2-ways, because Sharif was bouncing around Europe the last few years on teams not even good enough to be in EuroLeague, hadn't played in the NBA since 2022, so it's weird. Then on September 24th, 5 days later,
he fired
Ace
him?
finally parts ways with Omar Cooper and is looking for
He's like, "Without
someone
what?"
else to represent him. Is it possible that Ace thinks Omar used him to get his son back in the league? We have no
Probably.
idea, but the
That's what I'm
timing is
thinking.
very
It makes
suspicious.
sense.
It looks like Omar might have promised to try to funnel Ace to the Wizards without them having to trade up. See, teams who really want a top prospect often have to sacrifice assets to move up.
Oh, now that makes sense. He's like, hey, Washington, I could cut a deal with you. If you sign my son to a 2-way, I can make sure y'all could draft Ace Bailey without having to trade assets. So all you do is lose a 2-way deal, which most 2-way players are mediocre because they don't get the right 2-way players. But people like Alex Caruso, and I don't know if Pat Bev, there's some 2-way demons. There's some 2-way demons. I won't lie to you. There's some 2-way demons.
The draft. But if Omar could get Ailey to
But Sharif
tank
Cooper might not
down,
be
they
a
could
two-way
get him
demon.
free and clear. Maybe in return, they promised to give his son a second chance at the league. Now, I'm not saying that that's what happened. That's the conspiracy. But it looks like Ace might believe
tired.
that, based on the timing alone. Now, the more innocent explanation is that Omar created relationships during this whole thing with the Wizards and used that for a chance to get his son an organic opportunity. Maybe. But the timing of
Sure,
this
buddy.
firing is what really makes you wonder. It makes you think that Ace might believe more in the conspiracy than the innocent
Organic,
explanation.
yeah,
I mean, Ace kept working with Omar through criticism, millions lost, draft chaos. That wasn't enough to fire him. But Sharif signs with the Wizards, and then Ace cuts ties with Omar 5 days later. You can't ignore that timing. So we'll see if Ace is as good of a kid as reports say and a player. Then it's great that he's moving on. And it really sucks when a young person in their family gets taken advantage of like this. Allegedly. Should be a warning to other kids and their families. I mean, we talk so much about draft busts, but sometimes it's not even the player's talent. It's the people steering the ship.
Yeah.
Ace Bailey.
It's not talent. Well, at least he didn't at Gilbert Arenas. And he was like, I want to be the number one. #1 pimp in the world. Cause that was just crazy. I don't know why he said that, bro.
Story might end up being about way more than basketball. It's about how easy it is for young stars to lose control before they've even played a game in the NBA. By the way, big shout to Cheese Guy 88.
Is that the guy who inspired the video? Hey Casey, you should do a video on how Ace Bailey drama is solved. With Sharif Cooper signing to Washington, it seems like Omar Cooper, Sharif's dad and Ace's agent, had a plan the whole time. Omar failed with Sharif, helped him choose Auburn, caused him to get suspended, and his stock to slip due to illegal stuff he did, and passed on the first round opportunity to stay in Atlanta. So wanted a way to do it.
For a comment on an earlier video tipping me off to this story, it was a really great idea. But one guy who has not skipped a beat so far is Victor Wembanyama. Outside of injuries, the kid has been perfect. But what about injury? Well, he just had yet another growth spurt, which probably isn't ideal. But something else happened this summer that could actually protect Wemby to finally reach his insane potential.
Are you talking about him like bulking up, getting a little bit more muscle? Possibly. Now, that's crazy, though. If he was smart enough, though, he probably should have waited realistically like a year or two to then try to get Sharif Cooper on the team of Ace Bailey. But I can see why he's not thinking that would work for a team like Philly at 3, because Philly is already so combo guard heavy. If you have, they got Edgecombe, but I think that's who they took at 3. But if you got, not Vando, you got Quentin Grimes. Who else is on that team? Tyrese Maxey and bro that got drafted last year that paints his nails. I forget his name. Sharif Cooper is probably not getting any minutes, gang. So I could see why he didn't do that. But I mean, you kind of just sold the bag, so I wouldn't have did that.